You will believe a druid can laugh, and laugh, and laugh some more. But beware the Gaul who sings. Welcome back to Page by Toutatis, an overly thorough examination of Asterix, panel by panel, page by page, word balloon by word balloon. I'm your host, Augie Jr. Today we're looking at the 9th page of Asterix Volume 7, Asterix and the Big Fight. Check out the link to the playlist above or in the comments below to watch the whole thing in order. I've been thinking of changing the thumbnails around here. What do you think? Sound off in the comments below. Also, last week I said I might get slightly close to political with something in this video, but don't worry, I'm not. You are safe. I'll save those comments for another time when the moment is better and the page makes more sense. This page, not so much the one. Getafix met some Romans while on a walk. Obelix saved him by squashing him with a menhir. Then Getafix woke up with a poorly timed case of amnesia. Not that there's ever really a good time to have amnesia, but this one particularly bad for reasons that will become obvious in the next few pages. You can tell just by the way Getafix is standing in the second panel of this page that there's something very wrong here. Getafix is older, so he can walk with a bit of a hunched back, and his eyes are often half shut, but he's still a spry old man, generally seen as being observant, thoughtful, aware of what's happening around him. He's a well-respected senior member of the village, but unlike geriatrics, he's taken seriously and respected. He does have the occasional short fuse, and he doesn't put up with fools gladly, like anytime Obelix asks for a drink of magic potion, but he's generally a serious enough guy. But this post-menhir Getafix is radically different, and you can tell instantly just from the way he holds himself. Seen here, he's leaning forward, one hand bent back, the other shaking as it points forward. His butt is sticking up and back to counterbalance just how far he's leaning forward, and that silly grin is not something you usually see on his face. He tends to be much more serious, with his bushy mustache and beard covering up his mouth. And yeah, Uderzo is still drawing the circles above his head. Getafix is, as the kids might say, cooked. In this British edition of the book, he also sounds super British to me. Funny little chap doesn't hurt. I expected the American translation to be something along the lines of funny little fella, but it's not. It's a bad panel for the American translation with just, hee hee hee, you're funny. I like the British edition more, which mentions Asterix's size because Getafix is about to unload on Obelix for his size. Having that parallel bit of dialogue between the two works really well. Funny enough, the original Goscinny script didn't mention Asterix's size. Vous êtes rigolo vous is all Goscinny gave, which is basically, you are funny, you. So that explains why the American edition doesn't mention Asterix's size. It's a pretty straight-up literal translation here, but it also shows an example of where, in my opinion, Anthea Bell and Derek Cockridge actually improved upon the original French scripts sometimes with their British editions. It's fun to see the different version of laughing here also. I would say that he and ha-ha are both laughs, but different kind of laughs. Ha-ha is more a full-throated thing, laughing at something that the person finds funny, while he generally comes with a little bit of self-awareness that you're laughing at something with a tinge of embarrassment towards the person you're laughing at. It's almost a laugh at someone instead of a laugh with them, or acknowledging something that they said was funny. And in French, it's spelled H-I-H-I, but since the French I has more of an E sound, it's closer to he, which works better with my definition of terms here, though it's likely just a coincidence. Getafix isn't just laughing at something Asterix said that he thought was funny. Asterix said nothing funny prior to that, really. He's laughing at Asterix for being a funny-looking guy who's small. But I do think ha 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 can be used as a general laughter sound that encompasses everything, whereas he is much more specific. Where else can you go to find the definition of laughs more than you can find them right here on the Pipeline Comics YouTube channel? You're welcome. This is the Druid's first meeting post-Menhir with his fellow villagers on this page. There will be 4 in total, starting with Asterix, then Obelix, Chief Vital Statistics, and finally Cacofonix. The fun is in watching how his reaction is slightly different in each case, and how the humor and hilarity gets bigger as we go. Asterix appears funny-looking to Getafix, but Obelix, oh boy, we'll get to him. Obelix is a funny fatty. Shockingly, in this day and age of body positivity everywhere, the fat jokes stand in the American version. It's toned down just a tad, but fat guy is certainly a choice. The running gag of Obelix being not fat makes you laugh there, but it's doubled up immediately with Obelix looking around, trying to find where the fat guy Getafix is speaking of is standing. Right on the back of that, the chief walks up and pats Getafix's hand and appears as a calming influence on him. Until Getafix bursts back into hilarity. Vital Statistics is convinced of the problem now. Obelix is still stinging over the fat guy comment, and now... This is the funniest and also the smallest panel on the page. It's the quick back and forth between Cacofonix and Asterix that sells it. Cacofonix is high on his own supply, so to speak, and Asterix undercuts him beautifully and subtly. Very dryly. This is my kind of humor. Now, it often feels to me like the entire village flat out bullies Cacofonix. They're outright mean to him many times, such as this panel here from Asterix the Gladiator, even when he's just trying his best to help or to fit in, to try to be the village's friend, the village's bard, someone that people look up to and respect. It's never going to happen. The villagers have zero patience for him, and often they don't look good in how they handle themselves around him. Even Asterix, in this sample from Asterix and the Gladiator above here, where he calls Cacofonix a pig, does not look good when dealing with Cacofonix. But here it's just funny. It's the classic comedic reversal with a character who isn't just self-aware. And I don't mean characters who know they are characters and break the fourth wall. Not Deadpool, not Zach Morris, or anything like that. I'm thinking about the sitcom trope character. The people who don't realize just how silly they are and how everyone else sees them. I'm thinking of David Brent or Michael Scott in The Office. George Costanza in Seinfeld. Even Rose, the goat from the Golden Girls. People who plow ahead in the world as themselves without realizing what the rest of the world thinks of them or how it sees them. And you can add Cacofonix to that list, clearly. So Cacofonix plays his tune, Getafix thinks it's very nice, and that is the final proof the rest of the village needs that he has lost it. As Getafix is doubled over in laughter, pounding his fist against the ground, begging for an encore, his cape floating in the air above and behind him, another great animated piece by Alberto Uderzo. I love the action poses Getafix gets on this page. It's a chance for Uderzo to cut loose and really animate a character without worrying about going too far. He's got free rein in an instance like this to try to sell the comedy with something even broader than usual. In general, there are a lot of comic book artists, and I'm thinking of American artists here especially, who are good at showing motion and having people jump off the page and all the rest. It usually comes from the layout of a panel or a sequence of panels. But when you put a trained animator onto a comics page, the movement is a whole different thing. They're trained in that kind of thing, and they pull it off so fluidly, so naturally. Even when it's obviously, animated, characters can move in a single image in ways that some might find exaggerated or unreal, but I think are exciting and interesting and tell the story even better. This may have something to do with the fact I was an animation kind of guy before I was even a comic book kind of guy. There was an invasion of animators into comics about 20 years ago. Think Mike Kunkel with Hero Bear and the Kid, Tom Bancroft in Opposite Forces, Enrico Casarosa with Mia, Michel Gagne with The Saga of Rex, the entire Flight Anthology crew, and others. But most of them stayed in animation because they liked to do little things like eat food and put a roof over their heads, I guess. There's a whole video to be made looking back at that era, but let me stay on topic here. Maybe we'll get back to that someday. The point is, I think Uderzo approaches that level of animation skills with this page because he's that good. Getafix's movements are exaggerated but make sense. His weight feels real. Look at how he's leaning on vital statistics in the middle panel there. And all the movement lines fit in to show someone moving with just a single image. This is how comics should be made. And now a brief word from our sponsor, me. If you'd like to support the mission of Pipeline Comics to bring European comics to America, join the Patreon today. Levels are ridiculously low, and for a mere $5 a month, you can get your name added to the end of these videos as a Pipeline producer. This isn't Hollywood, though. That won't get you any royalties. This is strictly a money-losing operation. Trust me, I just had to renew the website for another year. Definitely money-losing. But the credit is priceless, and that's what everyone really wants, right? The credit. Anyway, now, back to Asterix. Cacofonix, of course, has a song to sing. In the British edition of the book, it's If You Were the Only Girl in the World, a 1916 song by Clifford Gray and Nat D. Ayer. Cacofonix, of course, changes the line to Only Gaul in the World, so that works. Good pun. There's also a Dean Martin version of the song from 1964, which would have been around the same time this book had been originally created and a few years before it was translated into British. So maybe that's the version of the song that the book is specifically referencing? I don't know. The French edition is a 1922 French love song titled Nuits de Chine, or Chinese Nights. It was a big hit upon its vinyl release back then, and subsequently had a secondary success with a new version in 1962 as an a cappella duet when it was used in a movie titled Un singe en hiver, or A Monkey in Winter. You can look it up on YouTube and see this particular video with these two particular gentlemen who I guess were something of a comedy pair of the day, drunkenly singing the song. And in the American edition of the book, I'm a bit stumped. Is the closest I could come up with is Don McLean's Vincent, Starry, Starry Night. Sound off in the comments below if you understand Cacofonix's obscure song reference here. Maybe it's not so obscure. Maybe I'm just missing the obvious Beatles song or something. I don't know. I'm afraid I'm a bit lost on this one. This is another one of those things I love about comics from this era that I don't think we see too much of in any American comics of any type. With most of the art being drawn in medium shots on a grid layout, the horizon line is usually at the bottom of the panel, if not the bottom line of each panel itself. Watch carefully how often all the characters in a crowded panel like this one line up across the panel with their feet along the same line, just above the panel in Asterix's case. Uderzo uses it as a tool, but he doesn't overdo it. With most of the art being drawn in medium shots on a grid layout, the horizon line can often be at the bottom or very close to the bottom of the panel. There are more examples of it in this book, but they're on future pages, so we'll discuss those as they come up as we go along here in Page by Toutatis. Peyo is an even bigger disciple of this, and it was more a part of his style directly. You can see it in the Smurf sample here, where the horizon line is just above and parallel to the lower panel border. Then see his Benny Breakiron book, where the lower panel border itself is the horizon line, and the ground Benny is walking directly on here, or crawling directly on. It gives the panel a very well-designed look. It's straight on, but feels deliberate in the use of negative space and framing items and all the rest. It feels kind of Wes Anderson-esque, to be honest. While I'm here, this is also a panel where the lettering helps to tell the story. Yes, everyone acts naturally, practically shrugging in agreement with one another, but that repetition of the word balloon across the right half of the page really sells the idea. You can hear it like you would in a movie where everyone is saying or murmuring the same thing at approximately the same time, just in slightly different tones of voice, slightly offset, just a din of agreement, really. See the slightly squiggly tails off the balloons pointing to Asterix and vital statistics. They're not making a bold statement, they're accepting the craziness they're surrounded by. They're lamenting it. Everyone else feels more matter of fact with more direct tails off the balloons there, and with their hand gestures and the way they're looking at each other. It just so happens with the way the page is laid out also that you get 3 singular balloons to work your way into it with a quick break by Obelix with "told you so" that gets a quick laugh before the last 4 balloons are piled up and creating that visual wall of sound, if you will. The only way to compound that effect would have been to have overlapping balloons saying the same thing to indicate an even bigger crowd. Have more balloons almost in the background where you see a couple of those silhouetted characters in the further back area back there. It's something I can remember Tom Orzechowski doing with the Chris Claremont X-Men script once or twice, and it's a neat effect. It can really work. It dawns on Asterix at last what a bad position Getafix's situation puts the whole village in. Also, I go this old house on the village's interior architecture, or maybe House Hunters. One of those shows, you'll see. For reviews of every Asterix book and essays on everything from Vercingetorix's story to why it might be better for the village to just surrender and get it over with, check out the Asterix agenda over at pipelinecomics.com, or click on these suggested videos for more Asterix fun and games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next page.